Ethan paused in the hallway of the restaurant, silence of the forest, captivated by an oil painting on display. The painting depicted a serene forest scene where a small brown bird with bright yellow and blue feathers was diligently building its nest among the branches of a tree. The bird hopped about, carefully selecting twigs and leaves to add to its construction. "Hello, Ethan. I was waiting for you. Do you like animals?" Sandra's voice roused him from his reverie. "Hello, Sandra. When I was a child, I had a canary. It sang beautifully. And I always suspected those trills were a manifestation of its loneliness. For a long time, I considered letting it fly freely inside the house. But I learned that if it escaped outside, it wouldn't survive for more than a few hours, so I gave up the idea." Seeing this painting reminded me of him. Sandra's eyes widened, delighted by Ethan's story. "The table where you last sat is now permanently reserved for you." "I'll be over in a moment," Sandra said with a smile. A short while later, Sandra returned, holding a glass of whiskey and a bottle of mineral water. "I have a coworker covering for me today. I've changed my clothes too. May I join you?" "Yes, of course. Here is the book I promised you," Ethan replied, handing her a small, leather-bound volume. As Sandra settled into the chair across from him, Ethan asked, "Tell me a little about yourself. How did you end up working here?" "I'm from Patterson," Sandra began. "My grandmother owns this restaurant. I've experimented with new things and gained a lot of knowledge on my journey. I was in a relationship with a man, but he laughed at me when he found out I was a waitress. That saddened me, but it also made me more ambitious. Everything seems to have a certain direction in this life." Sandra paused, leaned closer to Ethan, and whispered, "Look at the lady who just came in, the one wearing a green jacket." There was quite a commotion yesterday. A man from the fourth floor, for C, spilled coffee on his newspaper and swore so loudly that his cat, which was sleeping nearby on the open windowsill, got scared, jumped, and landed right on this lady's head. It was quite amusing, and there were plenty of spectators. That sounds like quite an event. I can't imagine the whole ordeal. She was furious at first, Sandra said, smiling. But after the initial shock, she laughed about the situation, along with the onlookers. The cat's owner apologized, and in the end, they became friends. Sometimes unexpected things bring people together in the strangest ways. Ethan nodded, appreciating Sandra's story. He took a sip of his whiskey, then continued. "You mentioned you're from Patterson. What was your childhood like there?" Sandra recalled with a nostalgic smile. "My childhood in Patterson was full of adventure and discovery. I grew up in a modest but loving family. My grandmother has always been an inspiration to me. She taught me a lot about cooking and how to treat people with kindness and respect." "It sounds like you had a wonderful childhood," Ethan commented. "And how did you come to work at this restaurant?" Sandra looked at the mineral water bottle, thoughtful. "I was called here by my grandmother a few years ago. She fell ill and needed help. I was reluctant at first, but I couldn't refuse her. It was a difficult time, but I felt blessed to be able to help. Working in this restaurant has opened my eyes to many things, including new people and new experiences." "It's clear you're dedicated to your work here," Ethan said with admiration in his voice. Sandra smiled. "Yes, I enjoy interacting with people and doing my best to give them a pleasant experience here. And, of course, telling them stories about flying cats." Ethan laughed again, thinking of Sandra's rich imagination. "You said you want to write someday. What kind of stories would you like to write?" Sandra looked at her hands, then lifted her eyes to Ethan with a shy expression. "I love reading fiction novels and stories that take you to new and fascinating worlds. I'd like to write for people, to offer them an escape from daily reality and to bring a smile to their faces." "It's great that you're following that path. A person's passion says a lot about them. I don't know many people around here, since most are just passing through. I'm only saying this because I wouldn't want to bore you. You're the only person I talk to this much. You're certainly not boring me. I truly enjoy your company. Thank you. In that case, perhaps you won't leave for New York without inviting me over at least once." Ethan looked at her, stunned. I don't know if that would be appropriate. It might be seen as me taking advantage of my position. And what if it were interpreted according to my feelings? Since you mentioned New York, he said, changing the subject slightly, if you ever need me, look for me at the Dream Exclusive Club. They'll know where to find me. Thank you again for your kindness. Athens' work trip was extended, during which time Sandra visited him several times. When he was finally ready to leave for New York, he stopped by Silence of the Forest to say his goodbyes to Sandra. I have to go, he said, but I promise I'll come back to talk again. I just don't know when that will be. Sandra cried, which moved Ethan deeply.